Aren't there times when you want to talk about everything? Sometimes talking about anything is very therapeutic. And don't forget about talking about, well, nothing. Sometimes it's about just listening to what others have to say. Please join me for my podcast, Yada Yada Yada, a chat about everything, anything, and nothing. It's a great way of knowing about what's not coming next. Hello there, this is Julie Schrager with the podcast Yada Yada Yada, a podcast about everything, anything, and nothing. Welcome to another edition of this amazing podcast. Next week I have some really cool stuff happening. So thanks so much for joining me today. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about women. So for those of you men who don't want to listen, that's fine. But maybe you learned something a little more about women or your wife or I don't know, just in general. Why don't you just stay tuned and see what exactly I'm going to be talking about? Sometimes I try and figure out what is the best topic. And it seems as though, and I'm grateful that my audience is so diversified. I have heard from younger uh, uh, people. I've heard from older people. I've heard from men, and I don't have a huge audience yet, but I'm really excited about the prospect of what could possibly be with this podcast. And so today I decided I'm going to discuss women. Why are we so freaking awesome? Well, we all know why we're awesome. We don't really need a constant reminder, but I think that it's important that we start to discuss why women are so great and why we act the way we act and why we do the things we do. Women, me, we run solely based on our emotions, and men don't. And it's amazing to me how we live in a world of marriage and walking down the aisle and making a lifetime commitment to something we have no idea if we really truly are going to be able to commit to. I mean, how do you walk down the aisle, say the I do's, and commit to something that you don't know really seriously if you're going to be committed for the next year or 20 or 40 or 60 or who even knows? Is that something that really should be done? I mean, is that normal? I don't know. I mean, I've been married 27 years and it has not been easy for 27 years. It's been wonderful and I'm happy to be married, but you don't think about the things that are going to occur when you're, you know, in that euphoric state when you're falling in love and then you're in love and then the feeling is mutual, then you get married and all you're thinking about is, oh, this is my future. I don't have to, deal with the single situation anymore and whatever else it entails. Let me tell you something. You don't know the answer. Things can change. Women live longer. It's a known fact. We live longer. And the cool thing about being a woman, even though sometimes it's really annoying, is that we get to put on makeup, we get to play around with it, and of course, men get to do it. Straight men, gay men, men that are trying to search for themselves, trans men. Um, However, women really do get the best of both worlds. There are days when I don't want to wear makeup. There's days when I do want to wear makeup, especially with COVID. We get to dress up. We get to wear more things. I'm starting out slow, guys, so bear with me. And we also have better communication. But let's start again with the women live longer. From what I understand, it's about 6 or 7 years longer than men. Now, this is in no particular order, but I hate to tell you guys, but we women have multiple orgasms. Yes, we can sustain multiple orgasms. Men, one orgasm, that's it. Sorry for the sound effect. Really wasn't what you thought. But sometimes women don't have orgasms at all, right? I know that there's women out there. We don't always have an orgasm, but we can still have multiple. How lucky are we, huh? To be able to have something like that. What about when it's a hot August afternoon and men have to dress in a suit and a tie for business? Well, we don't have to. I'm not wearing a suit that I have to sweat through. What about we don't have to wait as long to get to our sexual peak? Hmm. I believe that with men, their peak is like mid 30s, whereas women, they start at 28. How lucky are we that we don't have to wait as long as you guys? Women are more likely to survive cancer. Or as a particular website I'm looking at, it's from Glamour magazine, 30 reasons being a woman is awesome. They say that women are more likely to survive melanoma. Interesting fact. They say that according to Health Day, women can expect a 30% better outcome than men following an early stage melanoma diagnosis. So I shouldn't have said cancer. This is one particular type of cancer. And something else we need to discuss that I'm going to elaborate on, which is communication. We women definitely have better communication skills. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Men could care less about talking. They could care less about elaborating. They could care less about really having a conversation unless it pertains to them. Sometimes I have to get my husband, to just open up and talk about anything to me, um, because he really doesn't have much to say, but he is a wonderful conversationalist and he's an amazing listener. But again, women run on their emotions and we have excellent communication skills. I mean, I know that when it comes to business, men can talk and talk and talk. They're wonderful talkers, they're wonderful speakers. That does not mean women are. They probably speak more in a day, men, but it doesn't mean that they have a stronger command of language in, let's say, social situations. Um, Women, I believe, have wonderfully excellent communication skills. And I'll be honest with you, when we are in social situations versus a business situation, now let's stop right here. I am not making a comparison that women are not as good in business as men. I'm just talking right now about communication skills. When we are in social situations, we are very good socially. Even if there are some that are socially inept or do not like to be social, when you are forced into situations to have conversations, don't you notice how well you speak? I mean, don't you notice that out of the blue, you're this amazing um, uh, communication artist? I think so. Women definitely have better communication skills than men in social situations. And we also use a wider variety of vocabulary to express our feelings. Whereas men will just have a very normal, conversation, about, whatever. Unless you have that one kind of cocky guy that might be insecure and wants to show how skilled he is in communication. But women communicate better and longer. And it seems as though men struggle somewhat with the English language. Now, that's not to say that men still don't communicate well or don't communicate well in business, but I believe we are the strongest species when it comes to communication. I mean, think about Nancy Drew, right? I mean, don't you remember reading about Nancy Drew? She was an awesome chick, right? Woman. Um, Something that's kind of off the cuff, but let's be honest, we do have many more choices for clothing than men do. My goodness, think about the options that we have versus what men have. We can wear a variety of wardrobes, different colors, patterns, and men, they have jeans and slacks. They don't really have a whole lot to choose from versus women. I noticed that when I had my son and I was trying to get him clothing, and the variety was bland. Then you would go over to the little girls section and there were tons of variety. I have to tell you, and this is true, one great thing about being a woman, we remember things. Men, you just don't. You don't remember as much as we do. I remember where I put my glasses. I remember where I put my car keys. I remember lots of things, even when I'm not making a conscious choice to remember. My husband is always like, "Where'd I put my glasses? Where'd I put my glasses?" I can't begin to tell you how many glasses he has gone through in the 27 years that we've been married, to the point where for 2 years now, he would not buy reading glasses because he was so tired of losing them. We don't worry about that. We can backtrack, and with backtracking comes being multifunctional. I think that that comes with the territory of raising children. I mean, think about it, okay? You've got 2 children and, let's say, a job or a part-time job. You are now juggling your job, your 2 children. We wear so many hats that it becomes very common for us to be multitask and to be able to juggle so many things at one time. And what do the men do? They go to work, they come home. They listen to us about our stories of the day and the children. They might bathe them, they might get them ready for bed, they might even read them a story, and then it's bedtime, and that's it for you guys. But women have become the stronger species and the most awesome species because of the facts that I'm talking about, especially being multitasking. It is almost forced on us without us knowing that we're actually learning to become multitaskers. And remembering things, that's just a perk. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes remembering things is not always great because you could bring something up from the past into a present argument and just bust on your man. I'm just saying. What about the fact that we're better leaders? Sorry, but we are. And why are we? What do you think the reason is that we're better leaders? I mean, if you want to think of it on a personal level, it's true. We are better leaders, but yet for some reason, men keep getting to be president, they get to be vice president. From what I remember reading, there was, I think there was a study. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was some kind of a study that was done with about 8,000 leaders and in different positions from like a senior management to just an individual contributor. And this is from Forbes magazine. And this particular study asked a question to have those rate leaders in 16 leadership competencies. And according to the data, it was found that women completely outscored men in all but one. And in 12 of the 16, I'm quoting, the women were better by a significant margin. And they quoted Zenger and Folkman. Two of the traits were women outsourced men to the highest degree, taking initiative and driving for results. And those have long been thought of as particular male strengths, but they're not. They're strengths in women. Women are among the most talented, I would say, and respected leaders in organizations. And not because they're just women, it's because they are impressive when it comes to organization skills. They build better teams. They're wonderful managers. Not all, but most. I've worked for some women, and the majority of them, I mean, it's not like I had a ton of jobs. I do remember one where I had difficulty, but I believe she was trying to prove herself instead of just being who she was, which was an awesome person. We're able to combine like our logic with our intuition and think more seamlessly. And because we do run a lot on our emotions, we're more aware of others' actions and how to deal in situations more appropriately and accurately in order to accomplish, let's say, a given situation. So it's because of that that I believe in it. I also have something here where, excuse me, I'm going down my list that we are likely to have graduated by age 22. I don't know how true that is, but one thing I have to say is my son did take an extra 6 months to graduate. He was working full time, which had something to do with it. But I do know a lot of girls, I do know a lot of women who graduated even earlier than age 22 by taking classes in high school. I'm sorry, college classes in high school. So they could graduate high school faster, earlier, and so they could graduate college earlier because they took all these AP classes and college had college credits. So I don't see why that wouldn't be something that isn't completely true. And the other thing too is we remember things that are nicer. Like I said earlier, we remember quite a lot, but we do remember the nicer things. And that's versus men who might remember more painful experiences. And this is something that I did read that I don't know if I totally agree with, but I'm going to say I do. Do you know that the world's largest landowner is a woman? Okay, so this is a quote. Queen Elizabeth II owns 6.6 billion acres of land worldwide in the UK, Canada, and Australia, along with the Falkland Islands and various other spots here and there. The second largest landowner is a guy, King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, who owns a measly 547 million acres or 12% of Elizabeth's haul. Interesting, don't you think? Yes, women are awesome, and yet we still don't get the credit we deserve. And it's all coming out now. It's all coming out. One day we will be hailed as the queens that we are. I will say something else. I want you to think about Scott Hamilton, okay, the figure skater. Let's be honest, guys don't look that great in those costumes where women look amazing. There are just some professions and situations where men just don't look as good as women, and being an ice skater is one of them. And guess what? Car insurance is cheaper for women. Again, these are all studies. And I'm taking these from articles. I'm not just talking about this and saying, oh, this is how it is. These were studies that were conducted. And they say because women are 50% less likely to have a DUI. Why? Because we're not as dumb as the men. Sorry, I love men, but come on, we are the smartest species. And we don't always care about getting drunk. We don't, we're smart enough to know when to stop, too. I'm not a big drinker. And let's now talk about, you ready? I'm just going to say it. Women can be famous for appendages without being athletes. What does that mean? Take a guess. Let's just take a guess. I mean, I have to be honest with you. There are so many other things on this list that I need to talk about that I don't even think I'm going to have time to talk about. But let's just say we can wear the guy's clothes too. If there's a day when I haven't made a wash, I can grab one of my husband's t-shirts and a pair of my shorts. Boom, run out with his t-shirt. My husband can't. He cannot take my small shirt. My husband's 6'4", I'm 5'3". Can you see him wearing one of my shirts, even if it was an extra large? My husband's like a 2XL. We can wear the guys' clothes. They can't wear ours. Sorry. What else? Well, they say here that pop stars have much more interesting outfits, and that's pretty cool. And I would say pretty true. But what is so great? What is probably, I would say, one of the greatest things about being a woman, aside from just being a woman, is we can use handbags. We can take all of our shit and throw it into a handbag or a purse. I mean, a guy might treat himself to a backpack here and there, but I mean, come on. We can wear our hair in so many different styles. We can leave it as long as we want to leave it, throw it up in a ponytail, and we're done. I mean, guys can do that, but professional men working in corporate, they have to have, the business haircut. They can't walk around with the man bun. And what about girl talk? Having a friend that you can just talk with, or even a sibling, a sister. You know, it's just there's nothing like having a conversation with another woman, and we can talk about all the things that our men are not, or drunken conversations with random girls in clubs. Again, I didn't drink that much, but I know that they're out there, and we have nicer toilets than men. I will say the one drawback about being a woman versus a man, going to the bathroom. Now, come on, let's think about it, ladies. We all have to sit down to do a number two, but to do a number one when you're in a public restroom, I mean, men can just take theirs out and just go to the bathroom, zip up, and they're done. We have to have really good muscles in our legs, okay, in our quads, to hold our asses up in the air so we can go to the bathroom, because I personally do not sit down on a public toilet seat, even if I put 20 layers of toilet paper down. Sorry. Men do have it a little bit easier, but yet again, makes us the stronger species. I'm just saying. I also have to admit, I am crazy organized. And I don't know too many men who are crazy organized. We are, it kind of blends in with the whole multitasking thing. I mean, I surprise myself sometimes at how much I can do when, let's say, I'm on talking on the phone. I managed to do 25 different things that I had needed to do throughout the day and managed to do it in a 10-minute conversation. We're so good at giving gifts. Come on, guys. When you have a birthday party that you have to go to, is it the man or the woman that picks out the gift, right? And who's the one that wraps it? All of the thought goes into our friends with us, but yet we put our husband's name on the card along with ours as though they had done something. It's true. And let's talk about probably the number one reason that makes women just beyond awesome. Beyond. If you could think of another word, feel free to fill it in. Childbirth. And not just the childbirth, from beginning to end. Actually getting pregnant and creating another human being and praying that everything works out okay within our pregnancies for us and for our unborn children. And in the event that it doesn't, well, we'll have to deal with that. But we are able to create a life inside of us. And we then have to deal with 9, 10 months of our bodies completely changing, going through all the changes that we are most likely going to be stuck with for the rest of our lives. And sometimes it's looked at as a negative, and sometimes it's looked at as a positive. And all you do is complain for 10 months, and you have every right to. And the men, too freaking bad, have to listen to it. My husband would go out and get me Greek food. He would go out and get me ice cream because those were the cravings I had. And he was awesome. But at 5 months, I wound up having really, really, really bad morning sickness. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I had to throw up. And then 16 hours of childbirth. 16 hours. Now, I know that there's women who had far worse labors, but now you're not only having to deliver this human out of your vagina, but you have to try and hold on to everything imaginable to push this human out. And it's not over after that. You have the baby, and now you've got the afterbirth, the placenta. Sometimes you have an episiotomy. If the men are listening to this and don't know what that is, look it up. And then we have to spend God knows how long getting well and taking care of this baby. And then they're ours for the rest of our lives. Aren't we lucky? So don't be too jealous of us guys. We are the most awesome species on Earth, even if you don't want to admit it. But it's okay. We can keep it our own little secret on this podcast. To me, I'm proud to be a woman every day. And I am proud to have given birth to my son and to be living this amazing life because people, we only have one life to live. So let's make it great. Until next week, have a wonderful Labor Day weekend and stay safe. Bye bye.